All right, welcome to episode 18 of the Bedroom Studios official podcast. I'm the host, Michael Butts, and joining me today is two guests, which is very rare. It is Tom and Seamus Johnson, also known as the father-son duo, the Johnsons. Hello, guys.
Hey, Michael. Thanks for having us.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for doing this, Thanks for wanting to be on this. It's always good when reaching out to people and they say, "Yep, I want to do that. Let's do this." And it was great. For once, I had the whole month booked in advance, and I never had to stress. There was times it was just like, "Oh, Thursday, I need a guest." There was times that happened, but it's good. It's good to get people to come here and just talk about anything we want to talk to. We can or talk about. We can just go on tangents. There's no script. And I say that every episode. There's no script. It's just real conversations. So basically, I want to get to know, like, what is the Johnsons? Who are the Johnsons? How is the Johnsons?
Sure. Yeah, I can start things off. I think that the Johnsons concept or idea was born out of sort of COVID in some respects, right? So I had been playing with a cover band for a long period of time, and once COVID hit and there was no place to play, here we were trapped at home, masks on, taking our turns going to the grocery store, all the craziness with COVID, and a whole room downstairs full of instruments. And of course, Seamus had been playing drums and bass and guitar, and so I don't know if we played at the Spitfire pre-COVID or not, did we?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
no,
I think it was after.
I think it was like 2021.
Yeah. So that's how it started. So we were playing in the basement during COVID, and I don't know who had the idea to start putting some sets together to
that was
play.
you, I
was
think.
it me?
Yeah.
So that's my desire to continue on after our cover band folded when COVID killed us. And so we put together some set lists, and we had a lot of Beatles stuff in there because we love the Beatles. And Sarah Jean McDonald, who had booked my cover band for many years at the Spitfire, was very kind to Seamus and I and actually booked us to play in the alleyway at the Spitfire during COVID, because it was an outdoor space. And
that's right.
Yeah, there was no restrictions in terms of social distancing when you're outdoors like that. But it was a really good launch pad. It gave us the confidence to know that we could carry a 2 or 3 hour show with the set lists that we had. But it was also filled with anxiety and is this going to work out? But like, as Michael, from playing, your friends show up, your family shows up, and they encourage you. And it really got us organized. I mean, Seamus clearly knows what he's doing with a guitar, but it's one thing to know how to play, but then to organize, get set lists together, try to understand what it is that people want to hear, and putting it together as some sort of cohesive thing that people can enjoy while they're eating their fish and chips. That's kind of how it all went down. But Doug and Deb down at the Spitfire, along with Sarah Jean, were very kind to us over the years, and that's where we kind of launched the Johnsons.
Yeah.
So your first gig was in Windsor.
It was.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been to Spitfire once. It was for one of the bands I was in, but it was just a duo group. It was Brian Doucette. That was the first time I ever been there, and I tried to actually. What did I do? I think I emailed them a few months back to see if they have anything in the new year, because I really enjoyed that spot.
Yeah.
It was obviously in the inside with that little elevated stage, but the whole place inside and out does look phenomenal, right? And it's a half-hour drive for me. Probably, what, an hour drive for you?
Not quite. Probably
minutes?
50 minutes, 55 minutes, depends on which day. But yeah, it's a lovely little spot, lovely town, and from there we found a venue very close to our home that we played a number of times, which was Serpent Brewing. Yeah. And that was sort of our home base for a long time in terms of gigs, and was really a bit of a launching pad for us to do sort of what we're doing today around the city, because as you know too, like it's, there's the gas, and there's the mileage, and there's your time, and when you're playing an hour outside the city, it's, with all due respect to the Spitfire, it's an extra 2 hours to go to the Spitfire, hour down, hour back, and then your playtime. But if you can do so 4 or 5 minutes from your house, it's much more appealing. And the fact that the Serpent location, fell prey to the economy was a shame, because that room was an incredible room to play. The sound was wonderful in there. And it was awesome for a young artist like Seamus when he was underage at the time, because it was a venue that he could play at night, which is a bit of a rare thing when you're underage, because of the type of license that they had. He could stay till 11 at night. So
that's when they closed.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was 8 to 11, wasn't it, when you would do it?
That's right.
What extra amount of money do they got to pay for that to allow underage kids going? Because it's nowadays with COVID, the liquor license has now been diminished from 10 o'clock to 9 o'clock. So that's painful.
Yeah.
So there's been times and we have 2 venues here in Lower Sackville. Pizza Town recently got bought over by new owners about half a year ago, and they started up the playing again, and they're gonna restart in the new year, because no one's gonna really come out for live music in December. At least the owners know that. But it's Freeman's as well. They're both roughly 4-minute drive from this spot right here, and it's always great. Freeman's is high ceilings, and it has a really nice sound. You can get loud, you can get stupid in there, and obviously it depends if there's a party or not. If there's no party, you actually get somewhat of a green room, which is nice. Pizza Town, it's got a high community spot. When the old owners were there, it was crazy packed with all family and friends. And what's wild is, both places have liquor license, obviously. We didn't know one time, we started playing post-COVID, or when I say we, I mean my band. They, both my brother and Jake's brother, they're both of age, but they're, on the spectrum, and we didn't think to bring IDs. Because they're of age.
Yeah.
Right? And then all of a sudden 9 o'clock hits, get ID checked.
Yeah.
And they both had to leave.
Wow.
Because we didn't bring IDs, because they're 22.
Yeah.
Right? They're 22.
Yeah.
It's it's alright, I just work here. And we're great, now 4 people have to leave, because the 2 kids have to get driven home by the mothers. It's
Yeah.
4 people now have to go.
It's a real challenge for artists who are underage.
Yes.
To get venues to play, you got to be very selective.
Yep.
The Spitfire was very kind to us when we first started out. But where there's a will, there's a way. And Seamus recently turned 19, but we met you at some of these open mics around town, and what a great place to just sort of hone your craft, get out and to play.
I think open mics are the loopholes, honestly.
Yeah, I really do.
Because you guys showed up to one of the Freeman's open mics. I think it was just before you turned 19, and that thing's over at it's now over at 8, but it was originally 7 to 10. So if you guys came in, they probably wouldn't have batted an eye.
Yeah.
But it's now at this point, at Freeman's down here. It doesn't matter if your parents with you. Get out. You gotta get out. Yeah. Liquor licenses are. It's a set of rules and regulations, but as you stated, it's very hard to get into some places.
Yeah.
Being underage, and it's struggling for underage musicians. Probably what was it? What's that girl that occasionally comes up and harmonizes or sings?
Oh, Frania.
Oh,
Frania,
yeah.
that's how you say her name. Okay. Yeah, because she's not your age, is she?
No. Grade 10.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah. So has she ever been in a spot where she's technically liquor license would kick her out, but she's just there to harmonize or sing?
No.
We learned our lesson, right? So we
yeah.
make sure we don't put her in that sort of position. And we're talking to Franny just before we arrived here. We're supposed to give her a shout out. Shout out to Franny.
Shout out Franny.
But there's some young there's some young talent that should be heard. And Michael, you came out to our show recently, and that's kind of what I said over the microphone. When you have a stage, and you're very good at it as well, Michael. When you got a stage, share it with people that you
Yeah.
know that are either underage or you know have to leave or they don't have any venues to play. I think that we've got a responsibility as musicians that if we recognize talent, try to invite them up as much as you can because they may be struggling with
100%.
places.
Yeah.
So I learned that from Tony Trimper. I've known Tony since, I mean, I started making noise after I graduated university. I didn't want to do anything, and obviously, I mean, I would have probably like third year, fourth year, but you know, COVID, so obviously no, everything took a hit. Live music took a hit. So I come in 2021. First time I play was actually Pizza Town, and I start meeting everybody, and it just gradually the map just gets more broader and broader and broader. But what I learned from Tony was he would play sets, and he'd go take a break, and then he would randomly just point at a friend to go up and play during the breaks, because screw the house music, you know.
Yeah.
He'd be like,
That's
"You want to
great.
play? Cool, get out."
Yeah.
So that's what we
awesome.
did, and I had a show at the Loose Cannon, and instead of having Justin, I don't know if you guys met Justin.
I think so. Sounds familiar.
Maybe. Yeah. I'm trying to think.
Drummer.
Maybe not.
Maybe.
Anyways.
Yeah.
There was one time I asked the booking manager, and I said, "Hey, can I have Justin open for the hour instead of just open for an hour of the 3, and instead of playing the breaks?" He's like, "No, can you just get him to play the breaks?" And I was like, "No, can we get him to open for an hour?" He goes, "Okay, sure."
Mm.
And then I said to, he comes out of the bathroom, I go, "Justin, you're playing for the first hour of my show." And he's like, "Really?" And like he did stuff a decade ago. He was in a band called Inversions. They were on breakfast television. They did a bunch of big stage shows and all that stuff. Then they just broke up, and then he got back into it, and he was looking for shows. Eastern Passage Buffalo Club hit me up and said, "Can you play April 6th?" I said, "I can't, because Nick's not available, but I know someone who is." And I said, "Justin, you want to play here April 6th?" And he's like, "Oh, I don't think I have a 3-hour set. I might have to grab somebody else." So he grabbed his friend from Truro, and he opened for the first hour. But that was his first gig in like a decade, back in April. And then the booking manager for the Buffalo Club said, "Okay, send me some YouTube videos." And so he sent him YouTube videos. And right off the bat, he just said, "Cool, he can come back for the mental health event too in May." Just for watching his YouTube videos.
Good stuff.
And on top of that, so obviously this person from Truro wanted to break into the HRM. That's Sarah Watson, if you guys met or heard of Sarah Watson or heard her band Gypsy River. So they're in the Halifax scene now. They've done a bunch of shows. They've done Roxbury. They obviously played Eastern Passage Buffalo Club. I'm trying to think of more spots. But it was just the fact of just, hey, do you want to do this? And it's always a yes or no, which I like. And Josh O'Reilly, who you guys know, he just tagged along for that show with Justin and Sarah, right? Malcolm looked at him. That's the booking manager for the Buffalo Club. He goes, "What, do you play music?" And he says, "Yeah, I play stuff like Neil Young, Dave Bowie, Nirvana." And he's like, "Okay, you want a gig?" That was it. That was the press kit.
Yeah.
And Josh was like, "Oh!" And then I was like, "Well, if Justin got rebooked in July and he's playing in July, can I play in July?" And they're like, "Sure." I like that. It's just a matter of, and of course, obviously when there was a break in between, they called me up to play, and I was like, "This is amazing." It's good to let just everybody go up and just share the stage, especially if it's a spot that, like, if someone else knows the people more than said person. Like, for an example, you guys with Station 6 or you guys with Spitfire, right? If I would ever I've played spots as well, and I'd always just point at someone that's in the audience. If they play, I'll be like, "You, yes, no."
Yeah.
And I like that because it gives them an opportunity to shine and opens the eyes for the booking manager for more opportunities or more diverse amount of people to play, which is just
Yeah.
It's great because everyone just gets a chance. It's such a good thing.
I
It's
would
such a growth.
encourage people too to go to the open mics because it gets you used to sort of popping up on stage with little preparation
Yeah.
and doing your thing, because that can be very intimidating. And I feel so bad for some of the young folks that come and they're so modest and they're shy and they're like, oh, I've never done this before, and then they just blow you away with their talent. And so I encourage anybody to get out to the open mics to test your material and to play in front of a crowd, just to get used to this, how spontaneous it can be when you get up there and forget a lyric or forget a chord or something, and you get you used to being on the stage. But it's a great incubator for people that are singing and whether you're doing covers or singing your own songs, get out there and get that stuff out there. And to your point, you meet a lot of people, and once you meet these people, you make connections. And I think the open mics for Seamus and I have been, I know that we do our own shows at the various venues, but it's probably been the most rewarding thing for us from a contact standpoint. I mean, we met you through the open mics, and we met Daryl Cameron, who produced our single that we put out in October. We came here and recorded with you.
Darren as well.
And Darren, who is part of Wild Blue Rose, he comes to our house almost every Sunday just to play and rehearse, and it's he's become a musical collaborator, but more so a friend. And Seamus and I were joking in the car on the way out here, how fun would it be to be on a tour bus with Daryl Cameron and Darren touring around the country. Those two are just, we get into all kinds of trouble because they're such funny guys.
Me as your sound guy.
Yes,
There you go.
right? You're invited.
No, Daryl is an amazing I had him back at the start, so back in like August. He was on episode 2. We were yapping for 2 hours. Yeah, I think still to this day my longest episode. I have that and 2 other 2-hour episodes. I have Bill Travis, and I just did one with Sarah Hunt. She's, I shouldn't say newer, but like she's, as soon as she started becoming legal age, she started playing a bunch of venues now. So she sticks around Sackville and plays a bunch. She writes all the time. She tries to write like 1 song a week. And she's such a modest person as well. She's very what's the word? Mindful. And it's just like, hi guys, how's it going?
It's interesting.
And then just blows you away either on acoustic guitar or piano.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're collaborating with people as well, it's interesting to see their what kind of people they are, and I find Daryl in particular is just a very calming guy to be around, and I think that he brings out the best, certainly in me, and in particular with Seamus. I know Seamus worked with Daryl on some stuff with Darren's record.
Yeah.
And then he recorded our single, but Seamus loves working with Daryl because he's just encouraging and he's calm and he's such a musical guy. I was watching him last night at the open mic that we attended, and he's into it, man. Like he's listening to artists and he's vocalizing his pleasure in the music. He's kind of like, okay, that's great. Yeah. And you can just tell he's just like a big ball of music,
Oh my goodness, yes. When he was here, it was literally just us glazing each other back and forth, just saying like how much we liked each other person's craft.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, thank you. I like yours. I thought yours was really good too." I was like, "Oh, thank you." It was just glazing back and forth.
Yeah.
But I think Daryl is one of these guys as well that and I put you in the same category, Michael, because you're sort of relentlessly promoting your music and other people's music, and I think about Noah Ty, right? Who I call him a talent magnet with his with his myopic approach to doing these open mics. But folks like Noah and yourself and Daryl are just, it's encouraging for people to surround themselves around folks like yourselves, because it just encourages you to do better, and you challenge yourself and you're like, yeah, I can do that. And I know that Darren has started a recent YouTube channel, and I listened to something they put up there a week or so ago talking about imposter syndrome when you're a performer.
Really?
And we are so hard on ourselves, and if you got something to offer, go out and offer it, and people will either like it or not like it. And if you play for 10 people and 2 people enjoyed it, you've accomplished something, I believe. It resonates with those 2 people. So that's sort of what keeps me going, because, sometimes you do a show, it's a stinker, you know.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And other
Yeah.
times you do a show, and I know I joke about Pat Post, who is Crash Test Granny.
Yeah.
I joke with her when she comes to the show because whenever we play some slow Gordon Lightfoot tunes, she always cries. But you know, it's funny, but at the same time, wow, those songs belong to
Yeah.
Gordon Lightfoot. But if I can perform them, and Seamus, the way he plays, you know, the guitar on those songs, if it invokes that kind of emotion in someone, that's worth the price of admission alone.
Yeah.
To see somebody, you know, brought to tears with a well written song.
There was. I don't know if you guys ever attempted or planned to try out the Staggers open mic. It's Sundays 2:30 to 6.
Several people have told us about this one.
Yeah.
There's usually like 12 plus people there, and that's why it's now 2:30 to 6. Because
Yeah.
there's just so many people.
Yeah.
Mark Raven is an amazing guy. He's also on the album as well. And he's a very big supportive guy. He did a lot with Bill Travis and Mushcat, actually. So Bill Travis, every time you turn around, Bill Travis has an album release show. I don't know if you noticed that. I don't know if you guys kept count, but it's 4 now.
Wow. Yeah.
We, we love Bill.
Bill's great.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
really nice guy. He's
Yeah.
very thoughtful, mindful, and just critical, like, and he's away with words. It's just good to talk with him.
He's a great songwriter.
Oh my goodness,
Oh
yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Him and Daryl actually got me back into appreciating folk music again.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot in the scene now, you got a lot of people that will actually just dog on folk. In Nova Scotia, people dog on folk, but I'll tell you right now, in New Brunswick, folk is great. Which is, you know, weird because what borders us is what, a 2.5 hour drive from here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it just depends on the province what people will like or dislike folk. And it's such a strong thing. Like people here, I hear, will not appreciate folk. And there's a lot of folk bands. You have Folk and Country Line, you have Mahogany Hollow, you have
Yeah.
what's the other one?
Well, you know, I would say the Johnsons. I mean, we're certainly moving in that direction.
Yeah.
I would call you a singer-songwriter. And I've talked about that before with Michelle Calder. She was like, I'm folk. And I'm like, you're not folk. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, Summer Love is country rock. Stay is cowboy country because all the jazz chords in it. She's like, no, that's folk. I'm like, that's not folk. She's like, well, what is folk? And I'm like, well, Neil Young is folk rock. It still has a rock element to it.
Yeah.
So it's just a perversion of rock, basically. You just throw that little precursor onto and make a subgenre. And she's like, well, what do you call Joni Mitchell? And I said, singer-songwriter. She's like, not folk? And I'm like, you can call it folk adjacent if you want to, but it's very singer-songwriter. Like
There's
another,
a thin line between that, isn't there, when you think about singer-songwriter?
well, here's the thing.
and folk?
Justin Mackey, he's from Ontario. He came here a few times over the years, and there's a few songs that he has that sounds folk, but he always calls them singer-songwriter. Because when you upload to any distributor, you know, you put your genre in, always puts it singer-songwriter. And I said, why not folk? And he's like, what you said, the fine line. And so it obviously depends. Obviously, I find singer-songwriter more like personal, like connections, disconnections, conflicts, and all that stuff. Which makes sense. Like Joni Mitchell's what? Big Yellow Taxi? That sounds that's a conflict song because it's how the world is turning into, right? That's why I would call that singer-songwriter. I wouldn't call that folk. Like Fast Food Coffee, I'd still call that singer-songwriter. Right? Because it's a personal connection piece. Like Gordon Lightfoot, I'd call him singer-songwriter and folk rock, actually.
Yeah.
But Daryl Cameron and that guy is that one's so hard to do because like one song would be folk and then the next song is singer-songwriter and the next song is folk. So his latest song, Balmoral Falls, or his latest single I should say, because he did one with Laura after that, but Balmoral Falls I feel like is I feel like that one's folk because it's based on a scenario. Right? Kind of taking the word folk and like throwing it contextually around. So, you know, like a folklore is like a story made through the years, right? That's why I find folk is more scenario driven and singer songwriters more personal driven. That's how I see it, because labels need to be on everything, because the demographic needs to be grounded with something so they can keep interest.
Yeah, not a huge fan of labels, and I don't disagree with anything that you said, but I find my brain goes more for the instrumentation. Like if I hear a song,
Yes,
That's a big part.
it's
Yes.
like hey, what is that? And then it's like, it's interesting. Seamus and I have been performing a Joel Plaskett song recently live.
Which one is it?
Heartless, Heartless, Heartless.
Yes, off of 3.
Off of 3.
Yeah.
And Seamus plays it on the tenor, and I've had several people come to me and ask if it's an old song from the 1800s, because we do a couple of old transportation ballads.
Like Jim Jones and all that, yeah.
And when I listen back to that song, it does have a kind of a peculiar, old-timey sound to it.
Yeah.
But yet it's a modern song.
Yeah.
So I kind of like bending the rules that way in terms of tone and sound. But Seamus discovering the tenor guitar recently has really changed our view on what we like to play. We played with Daryl last night at open mic, and Daryl played a mandolin. Seamus was on the tenor. Darren was on his 6-string guitar. When I listened back to the recording, those things just were like a recipe for a cake. They just mixed together, so sweet. And Daryl is such a nuanced, wonderful a player. But it was just so cool to hear, really, instruments that have been around for over 100 years or more playing together like that. It was pretty damn cool.
Because it's rare these days, usually, especially tenor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
when you first brought that out, I was like, what is that? What is that? I first thought it was one of those fancy little like instruments. I think they're called a bouzouki. I was like, oh, is that a bouzouki?
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, no. That's an acoustic body.
Yeah.
I was like, what is that?
Yeah.
So for the people that are listening to Seamus, why don't you explain what a tenor is?
So,
it's interesting.
It's something that he made. No.
Yeah, exactly. So it's basically, like for like a flat top tenor, or I guess arch top, flat top tenor. It's basically like a normal 6-string guitar body, but they put like almost like an Irish tenor banjo neck on it. Like it's very similar. So it was for like, what was it, the tenor banjo players? Like when acoustic guitars started becoming popular, they could switch to something like that.
Oh.
And have the same fingerings, but it sounds like a flat top or an arch top, right?
So, now you said it was for a tenor banjo. Like it was the neck of a banjo?
It's like it's similar, yeah.
Okay.
But they made it to fit, like,
Okay, so banjos come in 4 and 5.
Yeah.
So is there tenor guitars that are the 5 and then like the little bit of half?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. No.
No?
It probably will happen at some point.
Yeah,
Someone will make
someone
it.
should invent one. That'd be great.
Yeah.
But it's interesting.
Noah.
The one that exactly.
Noah should make that.
Yeah.
So the one that Seamus plays is a Gibson from 1934,
Yeah.
and so that particular tenor guitar has banjo tuners.
Yeah. The Grover.
Grover
Banjo
banjo tuners,
tuners,
not
yeah.
regular tuners.
Yeah.
And so, I always get excited when Seamus plays it, because I think that's how that would have sounded in 1934.
Yeah.
Tuning,
It's just
slightly
I have
different.
it crossed. Yeah.
Exactly.
What's the original tuning? You put it in
It's-
CGCG, don't you?
Yeah. It is CG. I think it's CGDA. I think.
Oh, that's close to a that's very close to ukulele actually.
Yeah. It's
GCEA.
It's the same as like a tenor banjo or like a it's a similar fingerings like a mandolin, but just it's down a couple steps, right?
Yeah. But
You
it's
guys
not-
should mess with the audience one day and just throw all your guitars in 432.
Oh yeah,
You want to talk about folk? It's gonna sound more folky in there.
yeah. There you go.
But yeah, it's great. What was it? The one tuner I have is the D'Addario. It goes from 430 to 450. So 432 is great. I mean, you're going to play. I mean, if it's from 34, it definitely would have been in 432 because as soon as 1940 hit, that's when everyone was like, go to 440. Which, and the whole argument, and I get in so much arguments with this about 432 versus 440. There's nothing spiritual about it. I'll say that right now. I'm probably going to get a drone strike sent on me. There's nothing spiritual about 432. The reason being is if you go to 432 on a normal instrument, right, a stringed instrument with frets, cool. You played what everyone played from the 17th century. Well, idea was dawned in the 17th century, normalized in the 19th century, up into 1939. That's what everyone was playing. Because beforehand, the temperament was just, so the frets would have been slightly moved a little bit. I did the math today, and it's every fret is like slightly different from one another. The whole system was based on Pythagoras, where Pythagoras did, found your string, that open string is frequency of 1. You find the octave, that's a frequency of 2. You find 1.5, that's your perfect fifth, and you start breaking there. The only flaw with Pythagoras was if you base your whole frequency tuning on fifths, once you make your way back to A, you're about 1.3% off from your original. So say like A4 is 432, right? So times 2 is your octave, which is A5, divided by 2 is A3. So if you start on A3, you get to A4 by just traveling the circle of fifths to find frequencies, you're off. So that technically that major 7th, which would be the 11th fret, say, to the 12th fret, would be very weird because it's going to expect to be slightly sharper based on the math. And then just temperament came in and fixed some of Pythagoras's adjustments. So these big nasty fractions, they just decided to put them as smaller fractions. I say that, and then one of the fractions is actually, oh goodness, I forget, one of the fractions for just temperament is like 45, 30 seconds. I don't remember which note it was, but out of the 12 notes in your scale, and only a few notes, like the perfects are actually the same spacing apart, which is nice. And then equal temperament came in, and it was just like, okay, everything's going to be the same space. And then 1940 comes, so like, okay, stop at 432. We're going to go up to 440 now. And I get in so many arguments, and it's just like there's nothing spiritual about it. It doesn't matter if you down tune to 432, and you play 432 nowadays. All you're doing is playing pre-1940.
Sorry, Mike, I dozed off. Could you explain that again?
No, I'm a big music nerd. You don't expect it. I mean, no one expects anything until you open your mouth. I should say that.
You know, it's funny when you talk about music theory, and you know, it's very important for you to know some degree of math, especially with Seamus with a lot of his alternate tunings and that sort of thing. But you know, as a musician, you know what sounds right.
Yes.
You know, like, I mean, how many times have you learned a song and you decide to down tune it or to put a capo on, and you play it and you're like, oh my gosh, that does not sound like it should sound, and you abandon ship. And in fact, a song that Seamus and I have been doing recently that we wrote with Daryl, I wrote that in a completely different key until Seamus decided to, you know, try a couple of different tunings, and I think now we're playing it in E.
Yeah, on the tenor.
On the tenor guitar, I believe.
But I think we did do it on that K tenor as well, where it's down a whole step, because it sounds, you know. Yeah.
So it's funny. I mean, you write something and you play it, and then you just try to improve it by just maybe changing the key or doing something different. And then to me, it's sort of like, oh yeah, that's pleasing to the ear. I don't know what's happening scientifically with that, but it's like, okay, that works. The other tuning, you know, does not work. And of course, you'll appreciate this, Michael, being a vocalist as well, is that, you know, sometimes you write a song and you realize, oh crap, I can't hit those high notes, or I can't hit those low notes, and so you just alter the tuning until it
works.
You know,
You and me not hitting high notes? That's wild.
Yeah, we're sort of the high note
both
kings,
altos,
right?
man.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. I was talking to a really dear friend of ours. His name is Party Marty.
Yeah.
And he has he has like over 100,000 subs on YouTube.
Yeah.
But it's called Party Marty Easy Guitar Tunes. But he'll coach people to play 3 and 4 chord songs. And we were at his place last weekend for a house party, and he loves playing with Seamus because Seamus can sort of join in with most stuff. And you know, he said to us the other night, he goes, "I'm an entertainer, you guys are musicians," which is really not the case.
No. Yeah.
Craig is a very good musician.
Yeah.
But he commented on my voice one time because Craig Martin is his real name. Party Marty is Craig Martin. he has this really cool, gruff, party voice, right? Like he can enter the room.
Through.
It cuts through. He's got his
Yeah.
guitar. He's playing all of the party hits, and you're just drawn to him.
Yeah.
And he just, can rock any party. And he's like a walking encyclopedia of party music. And he knows what works and what doesn't work. But he was talking to me one night about singing, and he goes, "I'm so envious of you." And I said, "What do you mean, Craig? You're like Mr. Songbook." Well, he goes, "You can sing high. There's many songs," he said, "that I can't sing because I can't sing high. So I've got to tune them down or do them very different. And they wind up not sounding the way I want them to sound because I can't hit the high notes." And so, I'm pretty happy to be at the point in my life where I'm at, and I haven't sort of lost that higher register, especially singing some of the Joel Plaskett stuff, because some of it's very near the top of my register, but a lot of folks couldn't sing it, same as I can't sing a lot of low vocal notes.
The low is hard with me. I mean, I do a lot of Waylon Jennings to help with that. I don't know what it is. It's just, I guess it's just like a forcing. And then just quickly throw. You can't. I'm not. It's hard to describe. You can't just like throw -1 octave on there, right? It's just a matter of like, I guess, hollowing your voice. I guess I don't know.
If I sing low and I'm tired, I start yawning. I don't know why.
I notice if I'm singing without playing an instrument, I yawn. If I'm just singing along to music, I'll yawn.
What was the guy too we were talking to at the Folklore Center? Remember we were doing he wanted to hear us play that Pontchartrain song.
Oh yeah.
He was saying you have an Irish tenor voice like that.
Yeah.
He said that's what your kind of register is.
The next thing that Seamus and I are going to get into is we're going to do some Bee Gees.
Yeah. On the tenor.
Call them tenor? No, he's got to be alto. If he's casually singing rolling the way he is, he's got to be alto.
Yeah.
Maybe so.
Maybe.
I've never analyzed it.
I'd never analyzed either. I just know it's like, definitely singing low like Waylon Jennings is a struggle. Doesn't matter how much I try it, right? It's just the fact of being able to go low and keep in key. But have you guys ever seen me do The Way You Make Me Feel with Michael Jackson?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is. I'm up there.
Yeah, that's a very high vocal. And as when you got control of your voice, you sort of know. And that's the great thing about capos and alternate tuning, because if you can't quite get there, you can at least tune it differently as long as it doesn't change the spirit, the spirit of the song. But
oh yeah,
I've got a lot of respect for people that can go either way. They either got this beautiful baritone voice, or can hit a lot of those, those high notes. My fear of singing as high as I do sometimes. You don't want people to become tired of it during a show either. So we try to mix it up.
I think your lowest is probably Jim Jones, isn't it?
I think so.
Because it's the way that Bill does it too, right? So.
Yeah, for sure. But I think as a male singer, I think it's good to be able to sing higher when you're older, because that's sort of what you lose as you age, is that higher register in your voice.
Oh goodness, yeah.
Yeah. And Seamus is going to sing soon. He told me.
No.
No. I will say though, every time I do Michael Jackson, it's just the next day I wake up and I go, oh my goodness, my throat hurts, just from singing, because I'm going off. Like last night, I was at the auction house open mic that Tony hosts, and I was about to walk off the stage. Right, I was done, and Tony says to Brian Doucette, he goes, "Do you know any El King?" And he's like, "Oh, I could probably mess around and just BS it, right?" He's like, "Well, can you actually play?" He's like, "No." And then it took me a second. I was like, wait, who did you say? El King? Which is X's and O's.
X's and O's.
Right? So I was like, I know one. And he's like, which one? X's and O's? I was like, yeah. So I go back, I plug my guitar back, and I go, who wanted the El King song? And then person puts a hand up, and I was like, okay, here we go. And I was like, Brian, here's how to play this song. So, oh my goodness. It got to the point where I was like, I need water, so that high turned into growl. Because I was singing the chorus like very... like easily, like and then as soon as I got to the end of the song, I started growling, and I was like, got off the stage, and I was like,
but it is it's an instrument, and I find having Seamus and I being in the same household is super helpful, because we're doing the open mics, and when we're not doing the open mics, we're down there rehearsing for whatever show we got coming up, so we sing and play pretty much every day, right? I mean, there's not many days go by that we're not doing something.
Yeah.
But I find if there's like a family vacation or a work trip and I'm away from singing for 3 or 4 days or a week, you lose a little something, and it takes you a week or so to get it back.
At your age?
Yeah.
Okay, I was about to say, can't relate.
Yeah, no, I gotta keep it working. It's like an old tube amp. You gotta
Yeah.
keep it fired up.
That's right.
Oh, goodness. I say that, and my tube amp over there gets used every probably like 3 months. Seamus is looking like, what is that? Tubes?
What's that?
The orange micro dark. One
I've seen
tube,
those.
and it is insanely powerful.
That's crazy.
I'm a big fan of tubes. I was first like a solid state or combo person, and then I started getting pushed onto tubes, and I was like, man, everyone says tubes are better, and tubes are better. It's a nicer sound. You get this everyone says like this warmth, and I'm like, okay, you can call it warmth, but I guess I call it like a roughness, I guess, or like a roughness of your. It just adds like this smack in the face of. There's different words to describe everything. Like, oh, the tone is great. Oh, there's so much warmth in this. Oh, there's so much roughness around the edges. Oh, there's so much, like, sheen on this.
Yeah.
I do like using tubes though. I mean, so much so we're using tubes today here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, you guys are coming out of the ART MPA, Pro MPA 2, which is a tube preamp, and then you guys are just put through that Trans Y, which is a FET compressor, so basically just tube simulation. I'm raw dogging no compressor. I'm in the TPS tube preamp. There you go. And then at the bottom, which I'll probably just use for mastering, still need it calibrated, is a opto compressor. So it doesn't really compress with the tubes. It compresses based on the amount of light coming out of the tubes. That's what the opto does. I heard you guys chatting about your last gig about some sort of solid state thing, and you were like, "Oh, we can probably fix that." Like, are you guys like very big in electronics? Are you guys like? Are you an electrician?
No. We fool around with stuff. It was that amp that Cameron found.
Oh, right, yeah.
Another shout out to him.
Yeah, shout out to Cameron.
Yeah.
Shout out Cameron.
Necessity's the mother of invention, and with your studio here, sometimes you have to learn how to service, some of your own stuff. We know enough not to kill ourselves with 600 volts coming out of a guitar amplifier.
Yeah.
But we wanted to learn more about tube amplification, especially Seamus, and so a couple of Christmases ago, I went online and I bought a amplifier kit from StuMac, which is basically
It was like a Tweed Deluxe.
kit. Tweed Deluxe kit, and it comes completely unassembled. All you get is the speaker.
Oh.
You get the wooden cabinet
And the chassis.
You get the metal chassis, and you get a tackle box full of caps and resistors and
The eyelet
tube
boards.
sockets, the eyelet board, wire, tubes.
Comes with tubes as well,
Yeah.
which is nice.
So if you want to learn about tube amp, why don't you build one? So we actually got the soldering gun out, and we gave it to Seamus for Christmas a couple of years ago, and I think we had it together in a day and a half.
Oh
Yeah.
Yeah,
We were hiding behind a Christmas tree or nutcracker, that giant nutcracker box we have.
Yeah.
We were like, let's just go back here before we plug this in.
The first time we fired it up, we hid behind a cardboard box
Just in case.
it flew up. But what was interesting with that whole process, and we still have that amplifier today.
Of
it's
course.
a backup amp of ours, but shout out to Fender. Back in the 50s and 60s, where everything was hand wired. When I built this amplifier, Michael, I didn't want to go back and correct mistakes, so I meticulously followed the instructions, and some of the green wire that I used, I over spec'd it. I used a little too much wire on some of the tube sockets.
Yeah.
But all of those, all of those little nuances that happened during the building of this amplifier created this fantastic machine. It sounds.
That's probably why, because it's not perfect at all. So it sounds cool.
And so it's it's a tube amp that we built, and we used it until we got our hands on a vintage Princeton reverb. And that's another whole interesting story.
Yeah.
If you want to hear that story.
What's about the Princeton Reverb? Wasn't that the one you were playing out of on Saturday?
Yeah.
Yes.
Didn't you? What was that? Giant trade you did?
So what we did actually is we had a really, really, really nice Gibson Heritage 12-string guitar that we got from the Folklore Center, and Tom Dorward had taken the trapeze bridge off it, not bridge, tailpiece off it,
Yeah.
and he put a pin bridge in this guitar and turned this relatively, back in the day, inexpensive Gibson 12-string into a fabulous guitar.
It was like a, what do you call it? Like a, was it B15 or B25?
Something like that.
Almost like he turned it into, I think that's what it's called, like one of those Gibson 12 strings. Yeah.
And so, I mean, this guitar was nice enough that, Joel Plaskett had found out that Tom had worked on it, and he wanted to do sort of A-B with the one that he owns.
Yeah.
And anyway, that didn't happen because we walked in the store and bought the thing. And so we kept it for a while, but it wasn't getting played. It's one of these things you invest, some money into something and it's not getting played. And so I listed it for sale, and a gentleman named Zach McLean, who you may or may not know, contacted us, and we have since become friends with Zach. He's worked on some guitars for us, so we've traded some gear back and forth. Wonderful guitar player and a really cool guy. He purchased it from us, and I was in my basement. I think I had just walked Zach out the door, and I came back downstairs.
We were leaving to go to, like, I think it was, what was it? Someone's house for Christmas, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was something like that. And my cell phone rings, and it's the Folklore Center, and it's Devin. He goes, an amp just came in. You and Seamus have to have this amp. And we bought it from the Folklore Center wholesale because it needed some work done. So we took this amplifier over to Britt Fader over in Dartmouth. And
12 minutes after Zach bought that guitar.
Yeah, I mean, I never had the money for 12 minutes, and I bought this Princeton. So I feel bad about selling the guitar, but I wound up with this wonderful Princeton amp. And it's really like the amp to have if you're recording or playing live, because it's a small amp.
You take it anywhere, and it sounds great.
Got tremolo, got reverb, and you got wonderful breakup in the thing. And Seamus, tell Michael about your pedal board, because that's an interesting combination with your amp as well.
Yeah, like I used to use, what was it, one of those attenuators, like the air brake, but we found one of those BK Butler tube drivers. Like it's like an overdrive pedal that has like a little 12AX7 inside of it, and it overdrives that. So it's basically like a tiny tube amp on the pedal board that you can control the overdrive. So I just use that and I sometimes will have it low.
Is that what you used on my album?
No, I use the amp for that.
No, what did you use as well? What was that, the attenuator?
That was the attenuator.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and those are great too, but I find they're kind of finicky because you gotta go over, turn the amp up, then turn. You can't just like click it and it's distortion, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's like but that pedal does a lot, and then I'm borrowing that fuzz pedal too from Noah.
Yes.
That one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I mean, Seamus doesn't go crazy with pedals on his pedal board, but it's amazing what you can get with a really good amp, and then some key effects.
Yeah.
Here's a pedal that I recently got that I love. I got this whilst in Nashville. It was from Third Man Records, which is Jack White's.
Oh yeah,
of course, yeah.
Jack White's. It's in collaboration with Third Man Records. It's from Donner, and it's the Triple Threat.
Look at that.
So the original Donner, if I'm not mistaken, was a delay, but the Donner X Third Man Records, they call it Echo. And this right now, distortion, phaser, and echo, this is basically what Noah Ty does on Mondays.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Literally.
In one pedal, yeah.
Yeah.
In
The only
the
thing
same
is you don't
order.
have reverb, so you gotta have your own reverb. The Holy Grail Mini sounds really nice. I put that in the back of the little micro dark, and I'll throw this on. And you'll appreciate this. Hold on. I have more. This is the setup now for when I do my country album.
We're
Tube overdrive.
Nerding out on gear.
Yes. Big gearhead. This is you guys can hold that, feel the mass of that.
Holy, there you go.
Seymour Duncan twin tube blue. So it's 2 tubes in an overdrive pedal, and the channel select, I believe, activates each other tube. So you got two knob EQ, and then just volume and gain for each channel, which is in the lead. The lead must have some sort of boost in there because the lead's a lot quieter and it's still louder.
Yes.
It's great. And then the Triple Threat weighs like nothing. That's a paperweight right there.
Look at that.
Well, we certainly established that we like our tube material.
Yeah, I do like tube. I like amp sims as well. I'm a big fan of amp simulators, especially ones that model tube amps. For a bit, I borrowed Tyler Cox's UAD Dream 65, which actually emulates the 65 Twin,
Nice.
which is insane. The pedal's $550, but it emulates that tube amp, like the reverbs, all that stuff in there. Good breakup on it. And then I have Joyo American Sound, which actually does the Fender 57 Deluxe, which is insane. There's great breakup on that too. 3-knob EQ, volume, a little bit of distortion, and a little gain on there. It's incredible. That pedal was like $55.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised with like certain prices, like $55 to make yourself sound like $3,300, right? Or $550 to make yourself sound like $3,200 or whatever the price of a real 65 is.
We've got a Joyo pedal home that we bought for $50 or $80 or something.
I think it was $100 new.
Was it new?
But it's
I love Joyo, man.
Joyo, what is it? Atmosphere.
Atmosphere.
But it's got a ton of different like reverbs on it.
Yeah.
Like, it's got like spring plate and all that, but then it's got like shimmer and all this like
Just create some atmosphere.
I have that as well. That I literally just got up the road. This Joyo fuzz is so loud. And that's I like that. When stuff is loud and you just don't need to do a whole lot with volume, it's beautiful to do that.
Yeah.
I like shimmer as well. I do have a shimmer. It's a reverb and shimmer. It's called the Astronomer. Got that from one of my friends. He was getting bored of it, and I said, "I'll take that off your hands." This was like 6 years ago, but
Cool.
it's great to use. Definitely want to throw that in the effects loop in the back of a head, but it's good to just randomly throw on. You just put it on, you just play something, just don't touch your guitar, and just listen to the...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I used to be a menace and do that with Everybody Wants to Rule the World. So you do the opening bit, and then the note ends on an F sharp, and then everything else kicks in. You just play that and let just the while everything happens. Oh,
yeah.
That's pretty cool.
There was
cool.
one time I had it and it was like loud, and someone looked at me and was like, "No." I was like, "What do you mean no?" And they were like, "Yeah, don't." What did you have on? I said reverb and shimmer, and they were like, "Yeah, that was too much shimmer."
Too shimmery.
Too much shimmer.
Love it.
And I was like, "There's no such thing as too much shimmer. It just sounds prettier, and it's a higher sustain once you have it up more."
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
Tremolo, on the other hand, I don't know why. Tremolo does not tickle my fancy. I can't stand it.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like trem, especially on the Princeton as well.
Yeah.
Those have nice trem circuits in them.
Yeah,
But
it has its time and place, but there's a lot of recordings that have it on there. But I think when you've got sort of the authentic tube trim coming out of a vintage '60s amp, it's a lot different than some of the simulators that you have.
Yeah.
The other thing I'd like to mention too about that Princeton amp is I don't know where Britt Fader got the spring reverb that he replaced, because it didn't have the original spring reverb. But I don't know if it was an aftermarket, new old stock. I'm not sure, but that amplifier has reverb for days.
You can't go past 5.
Yeah.
It almost starts like feeding back. Like there's so much.
Oh, that's gross in a good way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you get up to 10, it's like holy. Like it's like it's like wow.
I think my friend and bandmate Brandon McCluskey, when he used to live in Wolfville, I think he had a 65 Twin. And he was like, "Bro, you can't go past 2 on this thing."
Oh, they're so loud.
I was like, "What do you mean you can't go past?" No, not volume, the reverb.
Oh, the reverb.
Yeah. You can't go past 2. Like, you can, but like the speed and tremolo, if you have like your reverb up at like 7 or something, your speed and tremolo can't go above 2.
Yeah.
Or it just sounds disgusting.
Yeah.
So I was like, one time I was like, "Why don't we just..." He's like, "No." Oh, it was gross.
Don't do it.
It was in a controlled environment. It was in his apartment, but it was still loud. It was gross. I was like, "I see why. Let's put these back."
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a rat hole when you get into gear, and something Seamus and I try to do is keep it as simple as possible on stage, and especially when it's just the two of us, because if you get into
okay, right off the bat, I got to interject here. Keep it as simple as possible. Didn't you guys bring a Leslie to a gig?
To Crookshanks.
You brought a Leslie to Crookshanks.
It's only one. It's only one Leslie.
Simple.
That was 2 trips.
Yeah.
Remember we were getting that in?
Yeah, that was.
You're
pretty
like,
cool.
let's put the horns in first. I was like, it's not gonna go, and you're like, yes, nope. So we had to put the bass side in first, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, you can't drag a Leslie everywhere, but when we were playing at Crookshanks, it was just
Oh,
like,
you have to.
we played it like a couple of days before, and we both looked at each other and said, we got to bring this thing to...
Yeah.
I mean, where else are we going to drag Leslie? Which was a very interesting thing for us to do, because we actually ran into Garrett Mason last
Yeah,
weekend.
the folklore.
And Noah had sent him a video of us,
Yeah.
playing through the Leslie. He was like giving us props all over the place for dragging that thing out. He said, "You just don't hear that," which was pretty impressive. And Seamus got a call recently from Tyler Mullendorf.
Yeah.
Oh shit!
And so we're going to lend Tyler our Leslie for a recording project he's got going on.
Yeah.
So that'll be kind of cool to lug that down to his recording studio and see that potentially on a
Yeah,
recording.
they're gonna use it on the organ, yeah, and we know how to
Oh.
transport it now too. We thought it was gonna be a hassle, but
Yeah.
it fits right in the caravan. Like when you put those back seats up, that little dip, it fits a 122
Yeah,
perfectly,
I think when they designed the Dodge Caravan, they said we got to fit a Leslie in the back of this thing. So
and it does.
Oh goodness! So there's one piece of equipment that I want to get rid of, and it's not the matter of selling. It's just because the repairs are so expensive that it's just what's the point of having it? It's this guy right there,
Yeah.
the Bon Tempe.
oh right, the old organ, yeah.
Yeah, so I got that and I picked that up in Cole Harbor back in like late 2018 for free. These guys just moved in. This was there, and they said, "We don't want it. Who wants it?" I said, "I'll grab it." So I plug it in, I play it, and I'm like, "Wow, everything is a major third lower than what it should be. That's cool." Okay.
Yeah.
So now it is a perfect fourth and a few cents off. So I said to Cam Hayes, I said, "What would it take to fix that?" And he's like, I will fix that for $300." And I was like, "No, I will just throw it out one day."
Yeah.
The only thing is, if I put that to the road, they ain't picking that up.
Maybe not.
And there's a lot of parts in there you can take out, like even the speakers, right? Like you can use those.
The speakers are,
Yeah.
It's a double speaker. No, it's a triple speaker. The speakers are okay. I mean, I could plug it in and I could show you guys when we're done here, like what I mean. And it's probably now to this day probably even more flat. But
Get it fixed. You could be the Bon Tempe guy in Halifax.
Yeah.
If anybody needs a Bon Tempe organ at their show, you'd be the guy.
oh my goodness, I was surprised I was able to one man this from Cole Harbor into the Tucson, into the driveway, and then I come home and I go. I had a roommate at the time. He was in this room. When he left, we moved all the music stuff into here. I said to him, I was like, "Yo, you help me right now." He's like, "What? Why? I'm doing something." I was like, "I don't care. I got an organ." He's like, "What?" "I got an organ." He's like, "You got an organ? Where?" "From Cole Harbor, and I'm bringing it in the house." He's like, "What?" "Yeah. Did I start? Help me."
Help me.
So we both... Oh, and then... So this has made several moves already. So one of the moves... So it was up against the wall in that room over there. Like up against that wall. And then when it came to start moving everything out, I put it there. And then I had my basic computer just on the desk like right here and all that stuff. And then obviously I got this. So, but when I wanted to move the computer from right in the middle of the wall just into the corner and have a corner space, I was like, great, I gotta move that again. That was fun. Moved everything out of the way. Tried to pick it up as best as I can, or like without like, or slide it without like doing much damage to this wooden floor. And I was just like, carefully. And then I got padding under it, but now it's just like, I gotta take that to C&D Limited. I gotta take that to the dump, dude.
Yeah.
I don't use that. I used it for one song. That was it. I don't use it anymore.
Geez, never know. Cam might want it just to fix it. Who knows?
Yeah, for $300. Yeah, so I said that's why I don't have it fixed. I was like, $300? No. Told him I'll think about it, which is a fancy way to say no, but it's okay. I mean, it's got 5 different things on there, so what? 25 different combinations of tones, I guess. It's great. It actually has like a play along beat to it, which
That could be fun.
it's it's very like chiptune. So this thing must have been made in the 80s. I was talking to Mark Raven. I said I had a Bon Tempe, and he's like, "Get rid of that." I was like, "What? Why?" And he's like, "Bon Tempes are garbage." I was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, we drag strays home every now and again, and it's funny with the Leslie speaker because Seamus was looking for one for a very long time, and you can't.
man.
buy
Where did
them
you
on-
even find that?
Well, that's a funny story.
Yeah.
So it's not something that you can have shipped just because They're so heavy. This weighs 120 pounds, I think.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Maybe a little shy of 120.
I think I looked up and it said 120.
Yeah,
Maybe.
It's I mean,
It's not-
It's a two-person job.
I think because the size of it, it's like, okay,
Yeah,
you know.
but we see them online and stuff, but you can't practically buy one online and have it shipped. It's just so expensive to ship. And so a friend of ours, Mike Rose,
Yeah.
we knew that he had one, and we talked about maybe borrowing it or seeing the one that he had. And I said to him one time, if you know of anybody that's selling one, would you let me know? We'd like to get one. And he kind of said, yeah, no worries. And so about a year or so passed, and the subject came up again, and I said to Mike, we're still looking for a Leslie if you know anyone's got one. And he slapped himself on the head and said, oh my God, my brother-in-law repairs them. I know he has like 2 or 3. I can't remember the gentleman's name now.
Rod.
But yeah, Rod, who lives probably 4 or 5 minutes from our house.
In Mom's old neighborhood.
Yeah. Last Christmas, we got last Christmas, I think.
Christmas.
We went up and he
You guys ball out for Christmas.
Oh yeah, we don't mess around. Yeah. So he had one that was fully repaired, and God bless his soul, he sold it to us cheap, quite honestly, for what it is. And he took the time when we went to pick it up to have a version of it sitting beside it, basically disassembled, so he could show Seamus how to oil the motors and how to maintain it.
Yeah.
And so we got a free lesson on how to maintain this thing. And knock on wood, it's been working like a charm ever since we put it in our basement. But it's such, for people who don't know what a Leslie speaker is, it looks like a piece of furniture. It looks like a bureau in your bedroom. And it's got a rotating horn in the top of it.
Yeah, like compression driver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's got a bass speaker that points to the earth, and underneath that bass speaker is this rotating baffle that gives you the sound. If you think about the guitar solo in Let It Be by the Beatles.
Yeah, one of the takes used it, yeah.
Or Black Hole Sun is that sound.
Mm-hmm.
But to be in the same room as a Leslie, that's one of the motivations to bring it out to Crookshanks. It's such a visceral experience because it's physically moving. There's air blowing out of it. And then this sound emanates from this thing, and it's remarkable. I don't know what it is about it, but we brought it, and the crowd was kind of drawn to it because they were like,
what is that?
Some people are like, I haven't seen one of those in decades.
Yeah.
Who said that?
Yeah.
I think it was Dennis.
I think it was
And then,
Dennis.
what's his name? Stan.
Yeah.
He was like, he thinks he used to own that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the funniest thing was Garrett Mason on Saturday. When we saw him, he was like, dude,
you guys
cool.
brought Leslie out to a show? You're like, yes.
But why not? And then we do crazy things like drag 7 guitars to a show. But my thought behind
that's just a scratch in the surface with all your guitars, is it?
Yeah, it kind of is.
Kind of, little bit.
How many guitars do you have?
I don't even know.
I think we've lost
20
count.
something?
Yeah, we have close to 30. Roughly. But a lot of them we don't gig with because they're just sort of fun things that we've found. But we really, really do like the vintage stuff. And I do, I'm glad I don't like kitty cats and kittens because I'd be like a crazy cat lady. But you see some of these guitars and they're in disrepair and they're languishing and they're hanging on somebody's wall or they're dusty.
Yeah.
And I just love to bring them back to life. And thank God that we've got Tom Dorward in Halifax.
Oh my God.
That can literally bring these things back to life. And they're good for 40 years of playing.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got so many wonderful instruments that he's worked on at home. And every time I pick one up, and they all get played at some point through the week because we have them in our music space, so they get played. None of them stay in the cases. And to pick them up and to strum a 1950s Silvertone and think that's exactly what it sounded like in 1950.
Yeah.
Or Seamus playing his tenor from 1934. I often fantasize about where was that guitar when it was first manufactured and who strummed it, what songs were played on it. But there's such a romanticism to the age of a lot of these instruments. And we've got one instrument at home which is very much like the guitar that Noah had at the open mic last night. It's a Hensel. It's a Toronto-made guitar. This particular Hensel that we bought, it must have been a camp guitar, like at somebody's summer camp, because it was very well played. And in fact, when we first saw this guitar, it was in pieces in a suitcase.
Oh.
And Tom Dorward told me that he spent 100 luthier hours to get this guitar glued back together, repaired, and able to be played. It's not fragile by any stretch of the imagination. It's
Oh,
put
the
together.
top
It's
on
solid.
it is like insane thick.
Incredible. We think that the guitar was exported to Europe and came back, in between or during or after the Second World War.
Yeah.
Because the guitar is from the 1930s. But the coolest thing about this guitar is that somebody with the last name of S, like must have been Stevens or whatever the case may be, because everybody's initials is carved in the top of this guitar.
BSRS, all that
RS,
stuff.
yeah.
Then there's this guy named Brian, but he wrote Brain.
Yeah.
Didn't spell it right. The craziest one, though, is the Gretsch. The story about that. Remember the calendar?
Yes, so that's interesting as well. We bought a really nice 1950s Gretsch.
From Folklore.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's a beautiful instrument. Seamus is the second owner of the guitar.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, we got the paperwork and everything in the case.
Yeah, it's got the original guarantee. It's a wonderful, wonderful instrument.
Yeah.
And you tell the story about Christmas time 2 years ago.
It was like, I think it was 2022, I think. And Molly, my best friend, she was at Walmart. And she was looking at the calendar. She was like, "Oh, that's cool, vintage guitar calendar." She was like, "That's pretty cool, right? He'll like that." And she was like, "I was looking on the back, and I was like, yeah, look, there's a Gretsch on there too. That's just like his. I better grab that." And we were like, and then I got it for Christmas, and I was like, "Check that out. That's pretty cool." And wasn't it the next day or something?
It was Boxing Day. Yeah, it was Boxing Day. We're kind of
you were really looking at it, like sealed still.
Oh yeah, it was still sealed, and we're packing up the stuff under the Christmas tree. We're getting it organized after the the Christmas chaos of the day before. And when I looked at the guitar on the back of the calendar, I thought to myself, that looks suspiciously like our Gretsch guitar.
Yeah, you came over to me, you're like, I think we need to open this up.
Yeah, so we actually cracked the calendar open. And this is like the vintage guitar, like the vintage guitar calendar that was sold in Walmart stores and on Amazon all over the world. And so I open up the calendar, and for the month of May 2022 in the vintage guitar calendar is the actual Gretsch that we own. And I was able to tell it was the correct guitar because just like a forensic scientist,
and the Bigsby that was on it,
the Bigsby that's
because they didn't come with them,
the scratches. I mean, when a guitar is vintage, it just has battle scars that you recognize. And so I flipped the calendar over, and on the back of the calendar it said, "Thank you to Halifax Folklore Center for letting me photograph your guitars."
And we were like, bingo. Yeah.
And so I contacted the Folklore Center after the season. I said, "Do you remember somebody coming in taking pictures of your guitars?" They were like, "Yeah, somebody before the pandemic came in and just photographed a bunch of the guitars."
It's so crazy, though.
But it's so cool to own a guitar that we got this beautiful high resolution, calendar photo of our guitar. So I call it she's the May girl.
Yeah.
2022 vintage.
It's just
calendar.
Crazy.
That's actually hilarious.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And the fact that his friend bought this calendar at Walmart in the West End Mall and
was like, that looks very similar. It's like it does right.
Yeah. But I love the stories of the guitars that we have because everyone's got every guitar has a different story.
And then that Harmony Broadway too. She gave me that.
Yeah.
Her dad found it in the garbage, or a friend of his found it in the dump, and then we got that fixed.
Yeah, it was actually bought at a yard sale.
Yeah,
for $15.
Yeah.
It languished in somebody's house for years and years, and somebody gave it to Seamus, and we have a lot of money in that guitar from an investment standpoint. If we were to sell it, I don't think we would get what we've got into it.
No.
However, the guitar is singularly unique, and it's the guitar that's featured on our single fast food coffee.
Yeah.
And we bought a Curtis Novak pickup from California,
P13.
and we put it in there, and it sounds like no other guitar.
Yeah. It's like, and we have it tuned. I have it tuned double drop D, so it's like you're playing bass while you're playing chords and stuff. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
What is double drop D?
So it's your low and high E drop to D, both of them.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's.
And it's got a neck pickup in it too, so it's just so thumpy when you're playing it. And I got flat wounds on it too.
Ooh.
Yeah. So it sounds like almost like a bass. Ooh. It's cool.
Did you hear us do the Neil Young song when you came into our show on Saturday? Did you arrive early enough to hear?
I arrived right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which Neil Young song was it again?
Harvest Moon.
Harvest Moon.
Yes.
That's the guitar we played.
That's the guitar.
Yeah. And in the song, and when we did our song.
And then when we did Fast Food Coffee, we played it as well. So
yeah.
That's such a nice sound. And what I found cool was like, why does this sound different for both songs?
Yeah.
Just now hits me. It's just like both those songs sounded completely different. Like did you just like flip the pickup switch or something?
Well, I did use a fuzz too. That fuzz Noah let me on the Neil Young one, cause yeah. But no, on Fast Food Coffee, it's just clean with some reverb and some trem. Yeah.
You guys got, crazy amount of gear, which is why, like, you got a bunch of guitars and probably equal to more pedals. You guys got like 30 plus pedals?
No,
Surprisingly,
we're very sparse on the pedal side.
very little.
I bet you we
Yeah.
own 6 pedals, maybe.
Yeah, I
7
have
pedals?
that Rat that's not on there right now, but yeah, it's the tube driver, the Rat,
Some compression.
compressor, Boss EQ for the tenor, because I think it was like 400 or 500 hertz, just because on that pickup that I have in the tenor, it's just a little bit too much, so I just take that out without going over to the board every time.
Yeah. We originally got
tuner.
the EQ as a boost. Remember for your acoustic guitar, we got some
Boost the mids
great
and stuff.
advice from John Parker to use it as a boost pedal.
Yeah,
for
and then the Boss tuner, and then that ABC switcher, so I can have like the DI running into there, and then I can switch to the amp, and then switch to Leslie. Have
Yeah.
that.
Oh, that actually sounds kind of cool.
Yeah, what's it called? Morley?
It's a Morley ABC switch.
I think that's what it's called. Yeah.
That's cool. When Seamus hooks up his pedal board, he can play electric or acoustic through it. 'Cause he's
Yeah.
got a pair of DI attached.
It's just
to
I
his
just
board.
put everything on it, and I can just
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you just pick up the instrument, press the
Yeah.
button, and it's just different thing
Yeah.
going. Oh, okay, so it's basically just like a pathway. Oh, it's just pathway selector.
Basically.
Okay, that's
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Honestly, that is something that I would like to have. I mean, when I played with Jamming Through the Night, it was always jumping between bass and electric guitar.
Yeah.
So it was just a matter of, because I would run through the Boss TU3, which has 2 outputs but 1 input.
Mm-hmm.
So one goes through bypass, one has to stay permanently muted on the mixer. Having that actually would be really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Putting that splitter on there.
And we have that what is it, radial? What's it called?
Yeah, we got a radial AB. ABY?
ABY, because
Yeah.
it's AB and then both, and we got that for like $40
Yeah,
or
it's
something
pretty
at the attic sale or something. It's like it weighs like 5 pounds and it's like that big.
Yeah.
They're well made.
But there's a lot of experimentation that happens as well, and the purpose of us bringing 6 or 7 or 8 guitars or a mandolin or whatever to our shows is, as a duo, you want to if you're going to try to entertain people for a couple of hours, you want to have some variety in the sound.
Different sounds.
Right?
Yeah, of course.
And not that there's anything wrong with somebody coming and entertaining you with a with a guitar.
100%.
But
Yeah.
It's nice just to kind of mix it up, shake it up a little bit.
Yeah.
It's true. And then also the hassle of taking all the guitars.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we got a van.
Yeah. Like, what was it? For me, I mean, I don't have that many. That is my guitars. That is it. Just the 6 of those. I'd have to say my funkiest has to be my Jackson,
Yeah.
because it's an 8 string.
Yeah.
But that's actually in a double drop tuning. What I consider double drop tuning. The F sharp and B are put down to E and A.
Okay.
So I have EA, D, G, B, E, which is really nice.
Yeah.
So I would use that for, obviously, harsh metal. Harsh, heavy stuff. So it's just an E. It's like, okay, cool, I'm still in standard. Just put on distortion and just absolutely go nuts. I need an actual, one of those, cushion fret wrap things, because I just have, a bandana that captures sweat on it. So that, because, oh goodness, when the distortion is on, it picks up the loose string. Those things need to be held,
Yeah.
or they will flail. It is.
Flap around, yeah.
It's disgusting.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I also have this guy right here. This is my first bass. They don't make these anymore. It's the Oscar Schmidt OB40. Now this is if I were to start using that again, I would probably take that to one of the music stores, get him to put new strings on them.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably get some D'Addario dead wounds if they make them for bass, because I know they make them for guitar, because what's that guitarist's name? Pat Metheny or something like that? He always played, he never changed the strings, and he just liked the dead sound, and he asked for strings that sounded dead. I do like the dead sound on this bass, but I would ask them before restringing, I would ask them to actually rip the frets out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and don't fill them back in, just so Les Claypool style, rip the frets out.
Oh, and just have a fretless or something.
Yeah, so
Like,
it's
literally.
it's a fretless, but you literally have the grooves in there.
Yeah.
That's what Les Claypool did when he got his when Carl Thompson made his 6-string bass, and he was about to put the strings on it, and he's like, "Hey, can we actually have no frets?" So Carl Thompson just literally picked out all the frets. And
Yeah.
it's a weird sound. I mean, if you guys listen to Primus, I mean, if you listen to the recording for Tommy the Cat, that's that. My Name is Mud, that is that. It's that fretless sound, and it's just like it's just a smack.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yes, I mean strings should not come off a bass unless they get broken. Yeah.
I know, like, yeah, I use...
Well, here's the thing, though. Give a guess how old those strings are on the OB40.
10 years old.
Let me... Yeah. No. It is... They are... When did I get them? I got them... Easter... Or just before Easter in 2015. Or 2016.
So
It didn't matter. 2015. Yeah, it was 2015. I couldn't drive yet. Yeah, those strings have been on there. And those are the first pair of heavy strings that I've gotten. And that was like my enjoyment for playing heavies. And that was just like the driving force of just like playing everything has heavy strings. So the basses are heavies. My red Ibanez Geo is 10s. My white Ibanez Geo is 11s. I think the Jacksons, I think they're mediums. If I ever get that restrung, I'm going to be like, can we put heavies on it?
Yeah.
So speaking of strings, we wanted to get our hands on a decent Fender P bass because they're just such an iconic bass that's played on most things.
True.
And we happened to overhear a conversation at the music store from an older
Quaid,
gentleman that had come in and wanted to sell his bass. And so the gentleman at the music store decided not to buy the bass. I reached out to him and said, if you're not going to buy the bass, would you mind sharing me contact details with the individual who's got it for sale? So he did, and I reached out to the gentleman, and I wound up buying the bass from him. And it's a 1975.
And he had to
Fender
sell
P
us
bass.
the amp.
Yeah, he wouldn't sell me just the bass. He sold me the amp as well, which I obliged and I bought it because I wanted the bass, and I knew I could flip the amplifier, but it was as equally as old as the bass. And this is gonna blow your mind, but it's a 75 Fender P bass with the factory strings on it.
Flats. Yeah.
Factory strings.
Yeah, so those strings next year in 2025 will be 50 years old.
That's disgusting.
Yeah.
How are they not rusted?
They sound fantastic.
Flat wounds for some reason.
Yeah. They're
I
flat
can't
wounds.
burn through them, which is saying something.
And the gentleman that owned the bass, it looks like it came off the showroom floor.
He recorded with it and put it away and
Yeah.
fooled around with it every now and then. Yeah.
It's in beautiful condition. And when you come over to our music room sometime, we'll show you the bass. But it was never abused. It was kept in a proper environment, and I have no intention of taking the strings off it.
No.
Oh my
Because they
goodness.
sound great.
Yeah.
And Devin bought the amp.
Yeah.
Folklore,
Devin
yeah.
took the
I
amp
might
from us.
keep. I might keep the strings on it then.
There you go.
on the
Keep it for
Osprey
you got 40 years to go.
Yeah. But definitely, it would be a hassle for them to rip the frets off with those strings on. That's the only thing.
Oh,
no.
you'd have to take them off.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
But
yeah.
you can put them back on.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if they do have dead sounding bass strings, because Dario does have them for guitar. If it just so happens, hey, do you guys got dead sounding bass strings? If they say yes, cool.
Yeah.
I get a fresh pair of dead sounding strings.
Yeah.
And it's now fretless. So now, since the grooves are not filled in, I'm always going to be precise with my fretless bass.
There you go.
Yeah.
And it's always going to sound... The reason why I do like it, and I don't know if you guys ever tried this or know of this, if you pluck the bass instead of, where the pickups are, but if you pluck up around the 12th fret, it is so much heavier.
No, it's a different tone completely.
Yeah, as you pluck up around the 12th fret, and the strings are dead, oh my goodness, it's just basically an upright at that point.
Yeah.
I used to,
Yeah.
when I played in the cover band, I played bass, and if we were doing a waltz, I always plucked further up.
Oh, even
to
that
get
one
more
on that bass, we have a
tone.
thumb rest too, up by
Yeah.
the neck, right?
Yeah.
Like right where like the
What was it? Paul McCartney always did, where did he well, he didn't pluck, he used to pick. Where did he pick? He picked right at the bottom of the neck? Or something like that?
I
or
know
right on the neck?
I know on the Rickenbacker that he had, he took like that horseshoe thing off because he would play right by the bridge, and then on the Hofner there's a wear spot right by the bridge pickup. So I'm not 100%. I know when he would use his fingers, he'd play it by the neck, but with a pick he'd be down here. So remember he would do that and he'd be right up on the neck.
Yeah, that's what it
Yeah.
was. Yeah. I learned that trick from what's the basis from Snarky Puppy. If you play up near the top, like near the neck, it's gonna sound more bassy. I was like, I don't have an upright bass, but that'd be cool to do. So I actually did that for. I made a backing track for Nick and I to play. It was a Jack White song, and because in the music video, in the 14-piece band, they're using an upright bass, and I mean the original song is from like, oh goodness, the original song is probably 20s, between 20s and 50s. But I was like, oh, he's got an upright bass. I want to play up here, make it sound a little more bassy, just trying to get a little more thump in there, just to make it mimic an upright bass, I guess. The tone that I really want actually is I want the tone from the Waylon Jennings song, Don't You Think This Outlaw Bit's Done Got Out of Hand. If you ever listen to that, it's just... It's... Oh...
I find it's funny too when I plug that P bass and I'll put like a mute on it and I'll plug in the Leslie and leave it on slow, and for some reason that sounds like an upright like that. Like I guess it's because it's that weird like because it's going a little bit out of tune on that Leslie, right? That just and it's just like it's weird, like it's strange. Yeah, it just sounds so cool. It could be used for something.
So many sounds, so much. Only so much time.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. What has to be the weirdest instrument that you have?
Oh wow, weirdest instrument that we have.
Maybe tenors.
Yeah, the tenors are pretty peculiar.
Yeah.
I tell you what I do have that's kind of weird at home. I have a 1980s
Yes. Yeah.
Hohner bass.
Okay.
That's a Steinberger copy. So it's a single piece of wood.
Oh.
There's no headstock on it. It has double ball end strings. And the neck's like a baseball bat when you play it. But it all has licensed Steinberger hardware on it.
I think I've seen a picture with you playing that before.
Yeah. I brought it to open mic one time at Crookshanks because it's just so small and easy to manage, right? The case is only this big. But
isn't the body of it just like...
Yeah, it's square.
It's like a triangle. So what's interesting, it's a single piece of wood. And if I dug that out when I got home tonight and plugged it in, it would likely be in tune.
I think it has EMGs in it, doesn't it?
Has EMG pickups in it?
Yeah.
EMGs?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and it's
double ball end strings because no headstock.
I've not seen one of those basses forever. The last time I saw a bass that looked like that was, oh goodness, 2 separate occasions. They actually had 2 basses on Money for Nothing when they played it live. They had one of those.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
And Weird Al Yankovic's music video for Dare to Be Stupid. The bass player was playing that. And I was like, I first saw that years ago, and I was like, what a goofy looking bass.
But there's a practicality to them. The only thing about them is the geometry of them is weird when you're playing because it feels like a short scale bass, but it's really not. Right? Because it's a full scale.
And the body's just like,
but the body is so small when you're playing it, it feels like a short scale bass. So if you go from a P bass and pick that up, your geometry is going to be goofed. You're going to probably hit wrong notes.
And it's funny too. Mark Knopfler's guitar player at Live Aid, he had one of the guitars. Keith has one of those too.
Keith has
But one of those Steinberger, it looks like the bass, but it's a guitar.
It's called the Spirit.
Yeah.
It's owned by Gibson now.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
Yeah. But it's not an original Steinberger, but it looks and plays like one. But we actually purchased a guitar from somebody one time down the South Shore way, down St. Margaret's Bay.
Yeah, it was the Strat.
And he has the real deal Steinberger.
Really?
And they were made of carbon fiber.
Yeah.
And I heard stories of that when they would demonstrate those guitars at music stores to try to get people to list them, they would bring it in, they would play a couple of notes, take it off, lean it up against a desk, and then kick it
jump
as
on
hard
it
as they
basically.
could, because you can't break the carbon fiber; it won't move. And then they would grab the bass and they would play it; and it would be perfectly in tune.
He had one of those weird green ones, wasn't it? It had like the wings on the side, and it was like a bluish green color or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool bass. But I had it as part. I used to play in an '80s band. My guitar player had the 6-string. I had the 4-string bass. But when I bought the 4-string bass, I bought it from a guy in the parking lot of the West End Mall, and he was a cabinet maker. And I bought the guitar. I'm embarrassed to tell you what I paid for it because it wasn't much. But when he brought the guitar over to me, He said, I'm only selling you this because my wife told me to get rid of some of my guitars. He said, you have to promise me if you ever sell this, you need to sell it back to me. But he was nearly in tears, right? I felt
That's
so
a
bad.
sin.
Oh my God.
In the
So I
amp,
kept it. I would never get rid of it for that reason.
in that Yorkville amp you had for years, that fuzzy 112 or 10.
Yeah.
Remember you said it was the guy's girlfriend.
Oh yeah, I bought an amplifier one time from somebody in Eastern Passage. When I went to pick it up, the woman said, quick, my boyfriend's going to be home soon. You got to get this out of here. I'm selling all of his musical
my
equipment.
God.
Oh my God.
Like that's bad.
That's villainous.
It is villainous, yeah. But I took the amp and off I went. But yeah,
You got it for like
$50 or something.
Oh my God. What was the amp?
It was just a little Yorkville single bass amp.
like a yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Like I think it had 112 in it, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never drove from Eastern Passage so fast in my life.
Crazy.
That's. I could only imagine what he was like when he got home.
Oh, he was probably not a happy camper.
That is yeah.
Oh, especially a 1x12?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a 112. It was not a 10,
I think
yeah.
it was a 12, yeah.
That's a 112 right there.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, that Ampeg BA112.
Yeah, it was half the size of that.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
It was just like the
must have been 10.
speaker and then the amp and that was it.
Yeah.
Like there was like zero room.
But very practical to bring to a gig because it winds up being a glorified monitor on stage anyway.
Yeah, you used it for monitor and DI.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what you would do, yeah.
Then, well, the thing is, what's funny enough is that Ampeg over there is actually heavier than that Yamaha right there.
I believe it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That Yamaha is, I believe, who measured that? Tyler Mello actually took the measuring tape to that one time, and he was like, "That's a 1x18." And I was like, "Sure,
That's
I believe you.
crazy.
You got the measuring tape."
Yeah.
But I'm just surprised that this 1x18 is heavier than my 1x12. I don't know how. I mean, they're both combos. Even the Yamaha has wheels for the assumption that it's going to be heavy.
That's funny.
And
Well,
the speaker's perfect. The speaker's nicely intact, and obviously the Yamaha kind of beats the Ampeg. You know, that has a 3-band EQ and actually has one parametric band on it, and it's got a compressor knob on it.
Oh, wow.
Ampeg, on the other hand, has ultra high, ultra low, and overdrive.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I've never used it. There was one time, I mean, if I ever had played bass at church, because I'm always behind the scenes now, if I ever played in church, I'd always take the Ampeg, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'd be like, okay, overdrive, just to see people's reactions.
Yeah.
So the whole choir would be like, no!
What is happening?
I remember the Ampeg. It was a 115 powered Ampeg amp they had at the school. It was a newer one. But it had like the SVT overdrive in it, like the older heads. And it sounded kind of cool, but it's just funny. Like,
Yeah.
it's, yeah.
My experience with bass amps on stage, if you use a 15-inch speaker and you're playing in relatively small venues,
Yeah.
you'll probably have your guitar player angry with you because the sound wave is passing right by your ears and hitting the other side of the stage. So I always went with sort of smaller, punchier speakers because it would travel so far before it broke.
Well, remember when we brought that 2x15 Fender thing to Serpent with that basement head? Remember? We were in the back of the room and the bass was like, oh my god.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing years ago when they built these amps, they were built to play off the stage.
Yeah,
They
that
didn't
was
run
the
them
PA.
through PAs, right?
Yeah.
They just played live off the stage.
That was your
And
PA.
so some of these amplifiers just thunderously loud.
Yeah. 50 watts, like tube or something. And
Yeah.
it's like, good god.
Craziness.
Yeah.
I mean, this thing, the Yamaha is actually pretty friggin' loud. If I were to play, I would take that to Gus's pub and play. Like, anything higher than 3 is wild.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
3 would shake the stage.
Yeah.
And I would be like, hey guys, yeah, put nothing higher than 3. They go, why? And I'm like, well, I'm running DI as well, and this split through into the amp. If you want to feel on the stage, yeah, turn it on, keep it at 3. But you're already running through DI, which you're already going to be loud as ever because you're coming through the main speakers. But yeah, if you want to feel the stage shake, just turn it on. Don't put it above 3.
There you go.
And because I would play for all those networking things, those gig nights. I mean, definitely you guys should get into one of those, the Get It Goings, and because they allow duos. And I would just turn it on, and then I'd go check every time, and I'd be like, yeah, they they don't move it past 3 because you just feel it. It's just there.
Yeah.
I would bring that doing Wolffield gigs as well. I'd do the same setup. I'd run split through into that, and I would just be like, it's got high ceilings. 5. Yeah. Patty's has a high ceiling. We'll put it on 5. And then I'd just say whoever's in charge of the sound, I'd be like, put it up how much you need.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be loud as hell because it's right there too.
Yeah.
But no, it's such a powerful thing. I've mic'd it a few times. I would do that same setup. I'd run DI and then mic that and just have 2 separate bass tracks at the same time. Monty's actually they do that. They'll do they have 2. They have Mark bass and they have Ampeg.
Yeah.
And the Ampeg is 8x10.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the refrigerator one.
As tall as me.
Yeah.
They have, and then the cabinet head itself has a DI in the back of it. And then on those 2 half stacks put together, they'll just have like one kick drum mic and they'll just put it on like one of the speakers. It's like the DI and just the fact you have 8 speakers is not loud enough. Okay. Yeah. All right. Cool. Yep. Yeah. You have just this. It's. Have you ever been on the Monty stage?
Yes, I think I have many years ago.
It's just.
It's
all there.
It's so
go home with rain ears.
present.
You played through one of those amps when you were playing. What was it? The
Lockport. Yeah, I played with the cover band in Lockport, and we opened up for the Northern Pikes.
Lockport. Oh my goodness.
We played on that outdoor stage that was there.
You're using Jay Simcoe's amp, wasn't it?
I used Jay Simcoe's amp. I used the backline that the Pikes had for that show, and it was pretty cool to play through one of those. But yeah, we're talking. It was on 2, maybe, I don't know. But your pant legs were moving even at 2.
I think Noah was saying one time too. He said I think he said he was front row at Metro Center or something. He said and he said you couldn't even hear one of those amps. He said for some reason, like he said, it was like a weird.
Yeah, had the sound cancellation down or something. Yeah, that's cool.
Maybe because there was 8 speakers in it too. You know, probably that's probably what it was. It's probably so weird, like just
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I strive to have big, loud, annoying amp. I strive.
Yeah.
Because mostly it's just, these are all practice amps. The only real amp I have is like that orange right there. That thing's tiny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The head itself is a paperweight.
Yeah. The biggest one we have is the Bassman with that 2x15 cab. That's just stupid.
215.
The 2x15 cab at home,
Oh, just hearing that, I can picture that.
Yeah.
I would like a 2x10 for both. I would like a Hartkey 2x10 to go with this guy right down here. I didn't mention this.
Yeah.
This guy's just there. He's always cold. This one, I would do, well, obviously because it's also Hartkey, but I would like to have a 2x10 with that.
Mm-hmm.
And then probably get a Trainer Dark Horse 212 for a guitar cabinet, because those things have the option to do open back.
Yeah.
And you can just have them up like this, or you can have them down. Like I like the 90-degree aspect of it. But this thing right down here, let me just show you this. Yeah, that is a cabinet head for bass. And what's cool about it is you have 2 separate ins. You got active and passive. You have 2 separate preamps on it. You got tube and solid state. You have a compressor knob, option for EQ or not, and it's graphic. And then you have contour, which is a high pass and low pass. You have 2 speaker outs on this. I think they're 8 ohms. You have a DI in the back with ground lift, and pre and post option for DI, which is weird. And I actually I took this apart one time because I had 2 other rack mounts before this, and I wanted to have this in my 8-unit rack mount. And I couldn't have anything in it, like, as well. Like, if that was in there, I had to have one space, because there was something that was just forbidding something to lay on top of it. And I noticed, there's a screw on top that is out. Why is this out? And so my dad was home, and I said, Dad, can we take this apart? He's like, sure, take it apart, it's yours. And I said, you see what's going on here? See the screw that's sticking out? He's like, yeah. He just like flicks it a little bit. He like tries to screw it in. He's like, that's not going in. That's weird. She's like, oh, it's probably stripped. Take it off. There's it looks like brass. There's a brass support beam in there for the bottom and the top. So you take it off. The whole set of circuitry is just right here.
Oh wow.
Yeah, all right here. The majority of the circuitry is right there. So you take it apart. There's the support beam, that brass support beam with 2 threads. So it had to be screwed in from the bottom and the top. So put the top back on, hold it in place, screw it back. First screw the brass thing back down, and then put it back on, and then you can screw it back on. Then you put the face back on it, and you screw the face back on. Now this thing this was a incredible find. I went to Bootlear's Point for this, and guy was selling it for 200 smackaroos. And I was like, all this for $200, what's wrong with it? He's like, nothing. I just don't use it anymore. I was like, well, say less. I actually brought it to 2 gigs. I just used that as my bass rig. And I was like, this is great. I love it. I would just use it as the DI, and I had basically my channel strip stuff here. I was like, perfect. We'll have fun here, and then just not have to touch it. Threw it in a rack mount. Threw that in the rack mount. Threw the power cable in there, and I was like, that's the bass rig right there.
Yeah,
Perfect.
it was funny. Me and Cameron seen it at the Thorn Flea Market. It was a week or 2 ago. There was no price on it, so you know the guy was asking too much. But it was a 90s Yorkville rack mount bass head. It had 2. I think it had 2 volumes, so it must have been 2-channel, and then it had an EQ on it. But it was it was white. It must have been from the 90s. It looked older, but there was no price on it. I was like, no, I'm not even gonna ask him because it's probably like $500. And it's like, yeah, no.
Here's the wildest piece of equipment that I've seen in amps. My friend Colin, he's out in Truro. Sometimes he'll come down to be at the free jams or something because he's good friends with Jer. And he will sometimes bring his cab and head, and I look at it and I go, what is that? And he's like, that's my head. And I was like, it's just a volume knob. And he's like, yeah. The whole thing is a volume knob. So it's literally just volume, cable into speaker. That is it. You don't get any shaping. You don't get any contouring on it. It's just loud. And then the pedals do the rest of the work. And I was like, where did you find this?
That's hilarious.
One knob. And I thought 3 knobs on my Micro Dark was like insultingly low. So which is literally just volume, a shape, and a gain. So that shape is basically just like, it has a picture of like this U shape. So I'm like, oh, it probably is like a mid scoop or something like that. And I was like, putting all your EQ in one knob is wild.
Yeah.
But it sounds great. It's insanely loud too, with just one tube.
Yeah.
And I think it's going into a 16 ohm speaker. Yeah. It's insanely loud. I love it. I will go crazy. There's gonna be one day I'm gonna break that tube. It's gonna be one day, and it's gonna be ugly. I was like, oh. I mean, I'll use like the Seymour Duncan. This thing gets warm in like a short amount of time. And I'll be like, okay, I actually got to stop recording now because this thing's got to cool down. I mean, these things right here,
They'll get warm.
these are nice and warm right now.
Yeah.
What's interesting with the pedal that Seamus has as well is that people do noodle with the type of tube, so you can actually
And there's a bias knob as well.
There's a bias knob. You can swap the tubes out and get
what?
different tones. A bias knob.
Oh, a bias knob. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you said bias knob. I was like, what? I was like, what's that?
Yeah.
I like the sound of tubes, and I mean when it's opportunity for like solid state, like good solid states, or even FET, like there was also pulse width modulation that I had my eyes on as well for a compressor. It was either this Trans Y or a PMW compressor. And I was like, okay, well, we got to do some research here. What does pulse width modulation even do? And I looked at it, and it was just like best compressor to like worst compressor, and it was just PMW was like the worst type of compression. I was like, oh, okay, never mind, we won't buy that. Then I saw this thing $200 off, and I was like, give me that now, please.
Yeah.
But a pulse width modulation, I'm trying to remember, but if I'm not mistaken, it adds like, it emulates analog, and it adds some like minute distortion or something like that. I may be bastardizing the definition there, but it's definitely the worst of the compressions. I mean, and I have an opto compressor, for crying out loud, and a FET compressor. So I mean, the opto only compresses depending on how bright the tubes are inside. A FET is just transistors to emulate the sound of tubes. Like, I mean, and to get a real tube EQ, like if I wanted a Fairchild or something, that's going to be an arm and a leg. I know. I'm surprised. These tube EQs are actually really, really nice. I mean, this bad boy right here, these guys, these Pro series, they're both 530 for just 2 units of just heaviness and power. And I do like them. Every time, like this is my vocal effects chain right here. These guys right here, and they have never sounded bad. They're incredible. I love these guys a lot. I'll use this guy for guitars, and I am just lazy and have not calibrated this yet. I can, I just haven't. And you can't go wrong with DIs. I love me some DIs. Passive DIs, all the way. I have, if you're counting each one just as one, of these guys, the PBDs or PDBs, I have 9 of these. I have the quad, I have 3 singles, and I have a double. And I'll always take like 3 with me for a gig, just in case. I always bring my double for the open mic that I do at Resolutes. You guys should totally come to that sometime.
Yeah, we should. Friday nights are a little tricky for us, but we'll make it out in the new year.
Yeah.
It's a good spot. Not toot my own horn, but it's nice and loud there.
There we go.
I mean, I just use this behemoth right here.
Yeah.
Did I show you this yet? Did I show you my child?
I
think
maybe.
so, yeah.
Got mass to it.
It's a Mackie, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, Mackie Mixer, yeah.
Love these things. I actually put Jer Mumbo onto this one specifically. He had the 12 V2, and I say get a 16 V3. He's like, why? And I'm like, more space. And 8 compressors for your 8 mono channels. He's like, really? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, 3 monitors. If you don't want to use the inboard effects, you can sacrifice that, make that a 4th monitor. It's great. 2 submixes, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to go get one of those. Very nice. And he actually, I mean, Free Jam started 45 minutes ago, but this is there. This is at Freeman's right now. I guarantee it. This is not steer me wrong. It had to get fixed with one thing. And it was after a loose cannon gig. We were just packing things in the car. I wasn't paying attention. Potentiometer on channel 4 actually broke.
Oh.
Yeah, so now if you look at channel 4, there's no resistance when you use the fader. You get a little bit of resistance on everything else. But channel 4 is just no resistance. It's fixed, but it hasn't made like a dramatic difference in sound or quality, or there's no scratchiness, which is thank goodness. But yeah, I was so distraught. I was like, oh, the piece of plastic just came off. Cool, I'll grab that. So I go back in the car and I find it, and I see the potentiometer is actually like ripped out of it. I was like,
oh my gosh, yeah.
So I hit up my sound guy, and I hit up Nick, and I was like, look what broke off. And he's like, the plastic? Fucking just get the new piece of plastic. I was like, no, the potentiometer. And he's like, oh, fuck.
Yeah. You guys had one similar to that, didn't you? It was like...
we had a whole channel
16.
that was an alto.
No, didn't you guys have a Mackie one time?
Oh, yeah, we did have a Mackie as a backup.
But you guys had those alto ones, yeah.
Yeah, we got a Soundcraft at home that's a similar size, like a 16
That one stays home, and then we bring one of those
Oh, the Yorkville PGM8s?
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are...
They're so... I will always... I make fun of PGM8s.
Yeah.
If I see a Yorkville mixer, I would prefer the YGM 14. Just because obviously more channels. I mean, they both have one monitor out, which is something I can hum and haw about for the rest of my life, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's just the PGM8. Every time I see PGM8s, they're just like the run-of-the-mill mixer. Like, everyone's got them. And it's just a flip of a coin if it's in good or bad condition at bars.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I find for what we do, it's like perfect
it's ideal
for
for us, because especially as a duo, we're running vocals, 2 guitars.
You just need one monitor anyways.
Yeah.
You know, and it's got okay reverb.
Yeah.
And we just put a
That's
little
the
bit
one thing.
on.
I find the reverbs are a little like, even you got like the effects knob all the way up. Like I'm finding like, Could be more.
Yeah.
This guy, on the other hand, I have everything set to. I have the knobs and the main control knob. I have those set to 10 o'clock, and then I put the actual effects fader at -10, and it's just spacious.
Nice.
Soundcraft, on the other hand, I will say though, I do appreciate Soundcraft. I have a Soundcraft. I have this little guy right here, and this I'll actually use if I ever. I used to set pencil mics up to record acoustic guitar, and then put them through my compressor because this doesn't have phantom power. And now for recording drums, my overheads, I got to do the same process because my other preamps are going to be taken up for other things. So get the phantom volume out of that, and I can EQ it basically. So it's basically just a preamp. The British preamps are pretty good. They're not Rupert Neve, but they're still good. Yeah, I can tweak it. It's preamp with EQ. Send it in the compressor because the overheads are going to be crazy. I'm going to need to squash a little bit, but it's a good setup. Now the 16s, on the other hand, those I must agree those do blow the Mackie out of the water a little bit because I mean I don't remember if that had. They don't have compressor knobs on them, do they?
No.
No. That's the one thing. My Brian Doucette has the 16, this big table of a mixer, and I go, "Where's your compressors?"
Yeah. Yeah.
So he's got that thing as well where he can send to like subgroups. He can or just have it sent to the mains.
Yeah.
He's got 16 channels. He's got a bunch of monitors. He's got delay and reverb knobs. And I was like, "Oh man!" I was like, "Where's your compressors though?" He's like, "Oh, they're not on there." I was like, "Oh, that's." I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Just joking with them.
Yeah.
But I do like the fact is they have 2 mid sweeps.
They do.
You guys have a 2 mid sweep EQ.
Yeah.
I just have the 1.
Yeah.
I find the low mids when it comes to acoustics, with mixing with that board, gets very frustrating.
Yeah.
You have to it's just like
It's
it's
acoustic
almost
guitar.
Yeah. I find the EQ is way easier on that Yorkville Live. It's just like low, mid, high.
I'm trying to think here. 315's a trouble area on acoustic guitars. Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, there's a lot of way to do acoustic guitars, but like the first way that I started doing it, even with like parametrics, like just mixing, 315, and then it's 2 octaves above. So 315, 630, 1.2. And just scoop from those. Sounded great.
Yeah.
We got rid of all the noise. I think there was one. When we did the song for the album, your guitar, every time you hit that C chord, there was always a.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is that? So I had to go find it. It was around the 300 or 400 area. It was somewhere between there. I was like, let's bring that right the hell down. So then I go listen, I go give just for contextual, and I was like, all right, it's gone.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, and I noticed you have an LR Bags.
Yes.
The LR Bags DI is really nice
use
because they
those.
have that specific notch
Yeah.
EQ on there, which is
Yeah.
cool because if I'm not mistaken, so like whatever note you set it to, it does that and its octaves. Is that what it is?
I believe that's how it works.
Yeah.
Which is really Cam Hayes has one as well. And I was like, "What's that?" And he's like, "Oh, it's for notching for bad frequencies." I was like, "What?" And I was like, "Is that all the octaves for that note?" And he's like, "I believe." And I was like, "Oh."
I find it nice because you can just, as long as I find I like EQing on those, and then when you plug into any board, just set the EQ flat and your EQ is set when you walk into a place, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll always high pass 100.
Yeah.
I'll always throw the high pass on, unless it's bass or a kick drum.
Yeah.
But I'll always throw the high pass on just to save my ass.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I mean, depending on the voice. For our voices, just take that 80 down, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
But, yeah, the other bags is great. And they weren't so goddamn expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Good
bought it at
notice.
the attic sale along McQuaid when they go on sale. We try to get them a little cheaper, but yeah, they can be pricey.
They're like, what, $300 to $500?
They're getting there.
New, I think, yeah. I think
Yeah.
so, yeah.
It'd be nice to have that for an acoustic rig, because my acoustic rig right now is literally just a clip-on tuner and a DI box.
Yeah, so we run passives in our guitars in terms of pickups. So we get
Your LR Bags, isn't that powered?
It is. There's
It is.
active DIs.
Oh yeah.
They're active
Yeah.
DIs with Phantom. You got Phantom power on the board, right?
Yeah.
And the powers them. You can run them off battery, like
They
inside.
can throw a 9-volt in them too. Yeah.
I do like that. But yeah, no, I never understood the fact. I never looked into it, but I was like, why do actors need passive? Or why does actors need Phantom? What? Do you guys know the reason?
I've never used Phantom if I have an active pickup.
No, I mean for the active DIs.
Oh, for the active DIs.
Yeah, like why? Why is that?
To power them.
Is it really they need that much drawn towards them?
I think they can. Yeah, I think like when you power them that way, it can handle it. Then you can just use a 9-volt.
Yeah. Remember we brought the acoustic to Freeman's that time, and when we plugged it in, it was hard to get any gain out of it.
Were you using the other bags?
No,
No,
Oh.
we didn't have it with us.
Oh,
it was just into the board, and it was
Yeah.
like,
he was.
uh-oh.
Okay, so it was probably into the board, or you were probably using this bad boy.
That's probably what it. Yeah, maybe.
Because he has this for Rob's battery or active one. He just goes right into the board and he plugs into a high Z because it's really powerful, real nice pickup in there. But for something like mine, which is a passive pickup, shout out Seago passive pickups. I need to go through this.
Yeah.
Which is basically just obviously tube flavoring, which is I do love the tube. A lot of people, again, I should say this. A lot of people do kind of dog on ART because they're like, oh, they're Chinese tubes. Go get the Russian tubes from Electro Harmonics and you're going to hear such a vast difference. I'm like, well, like, who said that? Tyler Cox actually said that. And I said, well, Tyler, do you hate my mixes? And he goes, no, your mixes are great. I go, shut up. Shut up.
You found one of those at
Yeah, I got one of those home. I'm not using it right now.
Yeah.
I haven't. I've yet to use it. I went into where did I go? I think I went into Cole Harbor for this, and I wanted it because I just wanted it. And I was like, how much for this bad boy? And he's like, 50. I was like, bet, give me. And I've yet to use it. I might use this for my tour coming up next week, just to see what it's like. Obviously, I got to use 1/4 inch if I go into the mixer because, like anything, if I don't put 1/4 inch, it will negate the preamp and just go use the inboard preamps. Same thing with the interface as well. If I don't put one of the, well, what's annoying is there's so many rules, right? You know, you got to use 1/4 inch to go in to actually get the sound of the preamp, right? But you can't actually use just a straight 1/4 inch. And all preamps are all like outboard gear and all that stuff will have the options, right? You can't use. You have to have the 1/4 inch adapter onto your XLR. Reason why is you can't run phantom power through a 1/4 inch.
Yeah.
You'll get finessed on your phantom power, and you're probably like, I've never seen. I don't know what the aftermath is. I don't know if it's good or bad, but all I know is you just get finessed on your 48, your plus 48. So I was like, I think I'm gonna need adapters. So I have a full XLR sound. So XLRs go in to the back of the preamp, and then this will go through the compressor. The XLR comes to the back. My patch bay comes into the front just to use these first two because the 6 in the back are used with these guys and used with this guy just to do live mastering. So I first was using. I didn't have these first, so I'd always go in. I'd be like, oh yeah, this sounds pretty good. And then I realized I got that piece of information. I was like, oh wow, my ears aren't trained.
Yeah.
That's the
It was
best.
just a sugar pill.
Yeah.
But now with the actual 1/4 inch adapter in, so my phantom power's not, taken away or shortened, and I get to actually use that preamp sound. It's just such a drastic difference, and I love it.
Beautiful.
Oh man. I mean, now we are pressed for time here. People
All
are
right.
gonna leave.
That's good.
We're all gonna go to Freeman's.
Thanks for having us, friend.
Yes, thank you.
Bye, guys.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Good talking. Good being nerds.
Right.
Yeah, it's good nerd gear, nerd note and gear.
Yeah,
you gonna run
I.
on Freeman's for a bit?
Whatever you want.
Sure, I don't mind.
Let's get wild. Here, this is what I do now for everybody now. So I take a picture of the guests now,
Oh.
and I do it in one of the funniest way possible. It looks like it is on. Hey, ready?
Yeah.
Looks like it's on a McDonald's disposable camera. There we go.
Oh.
There you go.
Yeah.
Look at that. That's the best.
So that's an app called Nomo, and it's free.
That's cool.
It's great. I did a lot of Polaroids for Bill Travis when he did his in-store show at Renegade.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Oh,
so it's got a Polaroid option on there, which is nice.
That's cool.
All right, so this is episode 18 of the Bedroom Studios official podcast. Not doing one next week because that's Christmas, obviously. I'm not going to bother people on Boxing Day. Besides, I'm going to New Brunswick on Boxing Day to start my tour, so we'll be starting again probably January 2nd, if not the 9th. So I got to start asking people if they want to come here and chat. But yeah, no, it was great talking to you guys, and it was just like, it was good to actually just like be a nerd about stuff. It's always good, like when like gear. I really specify, like when people ask me what my podcast is about, it's just like you know, singer-songwriters, people who do home recording, mixing, mastering, people who have a lot of gear, or people who have, you know, got their songs done through me, right? And people are like, what do you mean gear? It's like gear, like your gear, like you, like if you got a bunch of gear. Oh man.
We'll see.